Hello students, good morning. I hope you all are happy and safe at home. And we were dealing with the chapter current electricity. So in the last class we discussed a few topics. I hope it is clear for you. It's very important, especially the drift velocity and relaxation time, and also the relation connecting current and drift velocity. Okay, so today we will start with that expression. As you know, the expression is I equal to NAEVD. Do you remember? I equal to NAEVD. Okay, so we will start with that expression. I equal to NAEVD. Now what we are going to do now is, we are going to deduce the Ohm's law. Deduce the Ohm's law from this expression. Understand? We are going to deduce the expression for Ohm's law from this equation. So your question will be like this: deduce Ohm's law from this expression. Clear? So first we will write the expression for current, that is I equal to NAEVD. Now you know the expression for drift velocity, which is given by Vd equal to what? Vd equal to EE by m into tau. Clear? Instead of E, I can put the value V by L. Isn't it? So EV by ml into tau. So let this be equation number 1 and this is equation number 2. Okay. Now I am going to substitute this Vd in this particular equation. So I can write I is equal to NAE into, instead of Vd, EV tau by ml. Clear? So multiplying NA E square V tau by ml. Isn't it? Now taking V here, I by V is equal to NA E square tau by ml. This much is clear, no? Simple. Now look here. N is the number density, A is the area, E square is the what? Charge of an electron, tau is the relaxation time, m, L, all are constants, right? All are constant values. So I can write this as I by V is a constant. Isn't it? Or I can write it as V by I is a constant. Clear? So V by I is a constant means I can rewrite the equation as V proportional to I. Isn't it? V proportional to I. That is what Ohm's law states. So what is the statement of Ohm's law? As the potential difference across the ends of a metallic wire is directly proportional to the current flowing through it, provided the temperature remains the constant. So I got the expression as V proportional to I. Okay. So that's enough for this question. Now look here. V by I is what? If this proportionality symbol is changed, we will multiply it with a constant called R. So this expression will become V by I is equal to a constant called R, isn't it? So from this expression, what is V by I? I can take the reciprocal, that is V by I is equal to ml by NA E square tau. Understand? ml by NA E square tau, which is equal to what? The expression for resistance. So you can derive the expression for resistance as ml by NA E square tau, which includes the term like relaxation time also. So that question also can be asked. Derive an expression for resistance in terms of relaxation time. Understand? Derive an expression for resistance in terms of relaxation time, or deduce Ohm's law from this equation. Understand? So these are all very important questions. So make sure that you got it. Understand? So we will move to the next derivation. That's also very simple. So anyway, once again, we are going to deduce the Ohm's law from this equation. So we are writing the equation relation connecting I and drift velocity, that is I equal to NAEVD. Then writing the expression for drift velocity, which is EV by ml into tau, substituting this value in Vd. Now you will just rearrange and you will get like I by V equal to NA E square tau by ml, where this term is All terms are constant, so you can write it as a constant. If I by v is a constant, then v by I is also a constant. So I can write v by I is a constant, or v proportional to I, and v by I is taken as what? R. So from this expression I can write resistance R is equal to ml by Na E square tau. ml by Na E square tau. Okay. So we will move to the next derivation part. So we will start with the last expression, that is R equal to ml by Na E square tau. Okay, very simple only. Now we are going to derive an expression for resistivity. You have studied resistivity from which expression? As R is equal to rho into L by A, isn't it? That is, factors affecting resistance are proportional to L and are proportional to 1 by A. So R equal to rho into L by A. So just I am writing that equation also here. That is, R is equal to rho L by A. So equation number 1 and equation number 2. Clear? Now the left side are equal, right? So I am equating the right side also. That is, ml by N A E square tau is equal to rho L by A. Okay, L get cancelled, then A also get cancelled. So the final expression for rho is m by N E square tau. Again, important only, m by N E square tau. Understand? So main expressions that we derived are, first is for a resistance R equal to ml by Na E square tau, and next is resistivity, which is m by N E square tau. Understand? Okay. So next is very important. Okay. That is effect of temperature on resistance. So when temperature increases or when temperature decreases, what will happen to resistance? In the last class we set a few points with respect to the relaxation time and drift velocity. I think you remember it. Anyway, once again I will tell, from this equation we can explain. Okay. That is, if the temperature is increased for a particular resistance wire, okay, we are increasing the temperature. This is a resistance wire. So we are increasing the temperature. Then what will happen? They gain energy, isn't it? And as a result, they start to move randomly. They will be in a random motion. At that time, what will happen? The collision will increase, isn't it? The collision will increase. And because of collision, the relaxation time decreases. This much we told in the previous class. Okay, that is, when temperature is increased, kinetic energy is increased. As kinetic energy increases, collision is increased. Okay, when collision is increased, the time gap between two collision will get reduced, and that time gap between the successive collisions is called what? Relaxation time. So relaxation time will get what? Relaxation time will get reduced. This much is clear now. Now look here, when the relaxation time is reduced, look, it is in the denominator part. So when it is reduced or when it is decreased, the resistance will automatically get increased. Understand? Similarly, resistivity also increases because of the decrease in what? Relaxation time. Okay. So resistance as well as resistivity increases with temperature. Very important. This asked for 2 mark questions. What is the effect of temperature on resistance? So what will you explain? When the temperature is increased, the kinetic energy is increased. As a result, the collision between the atoms, electron, ion or electron atom collision will get increased. When the collision is increased, the time gap between the successive collision is reduced, which means relaxation time is reduced. Now we can write this equation there. That is, we have the equation R equal to ml by N E square A tau, and if the relaxation time is decreased, then automatically resistance will increase as well as the resistivity will increase. Okay, that is the effect of temperature on resistance. Here we have to derive an equation. That is, the resistance depends upon, the change in resistance depends upon 2 factors. It's very important. Change in the resistance depends upon 2 factors. The first factor is the initial resistance. Initial resistance, I can denote it as R naught. Okay, R naught. Now, second one is the change in temperature. Change in temperature. That means For example, first I have a resistance of 5 ohm. When I increase the temperature, it is increasing, no? It is increasing, sorry. When I increase the temperature, what will happen? Resistance increases and so it will turn to 6 ohm or 7 ohm like that. So if I know the first resistance, I can say clearly whether it is increasing or decreasing to a particular unit, isn't it? So actually it is depending upon what? The initial resistance. That is the first thing. So the change in resistance actually depends on the initial resistance. Let the initial resistance be R0. Understand? Now the change in temperature. How much change is happened in the temperature, and with respect to that change, how much resistance is increased or decreased. That also we can find. Understand? So the two factors on which the resistance or the change in resistance depends are, first one is initial resistance and the second one is change in temperature. So with that, I can frame an equation. Look here. The change in resistance can be denoted as delta R. Delta denotes what? Change. Okay. So delta R is actually proportional to the initial resistance R0. Clear? And also delta R is proportional to what? The change in temperature, delta T. Okay. So delta R is the change in resistance. It is proportional to the original resistance R0, and delta R is again proportional to the change in temperature, delta T. You can use capital T. Okay. So combining these two equations, I can write delta R proportional to R0 delta T. Clear? Delta R proportional to R0 delta T. Now this proportionality sign is changed by multiplying with a constant, and that constant is called alpha. Clear? This alpha is called the temperature coefficient of resistance. Temperature coefficient of resistance. Okay. So how to define alpha? I can write alpha as delta R by R0 delta T. So what does it mean? Temperature coefficient of resistance is actually the ratio of what? The change in resistance to the original resistance as well as the unit rise in temperature. With respect to this equation I am defining. Okay. So alpha or the temperature coefficient of resistance is equal to what? The ratio of change in resistance to the original resistance and unit increase in temperature. Understand? So that is all about temperature coefficient of resistance. Now I can rearrange the equation as delta R, as you know, it is what? It is the change in resistance, isn't it? That is delta R is equal to actually the original resistance, final resistance minus what? Initial resistance. Final resistance minus initial resistance. So I can rewrite this equation as alpha is equal to R minus R0 divided by R0 delta T. Clear? R minus R0 by R0 delta T. Now just again combine this cross multiplying, I get alpha R0 delta T is equal to R minus R0. Isn't it? Alpha R0 delta T is equal to R minus R0. Okay. Now what is R? From this equation, R equal to R0 plus alpha R0 delta T. Clear? Or you can take R0 outside so that R is equal to R0 into 1 plus alpha delta T. Okay. So this is the equation for what? The final resistance in terms of the original or initial resistance, then temperature coefficient of resistance, and also delta T, which is a change in temperature. Understand? So once again, we are explaining about the effect of temperature on resistance. As the temperature increases, what will happen? Kinetic energy increases and the relaxation time will get decreased. As the relaxation time decreases, the resistance as well as resistivity increases. Based on this equation, you can explain that. Then moving to the change in resistance, actually depending on two things. First is the initial resistance R0 and second is the change in temperature delta T. With that, we are framing equations which will give you delta R, which is a change in resistance, is directly proportional to R0, and also delta R is directly proportional to delta T. So combining these equations, you will get delta R is equal to proportionality sign is changed by a constant temperature coefficient of resistance alpha R naught delta T, alpha equal to delta R by R naught delta T. Okay, so alpha can be defined as the ratio of the change in resistance to what unit change in temperature as well as the original resistance. Now we have the expression here alpha delta R I am changing to R minus R naught, where R is the final and R naught is the initial resistance. So cross multiplying, you will get alpha R naught delta T equal to R minus R naught. From this you are deriving an expression for R which will give you R naught into 1 plus alpha delta T. Understand? Now based upon this value of alpha, you can say whether the resistance increases or decreases. Clear? If the alpha is positive, if the alpha value of alpha is positive, it means that what resistance increases. Understand? Now if it is negative, the resistance decreases. Clear? Okay, now we will move to that. Okay. So with this equation, we can explain how the temperature is affected in the case of conductors, in the case of insulators, and in semiconductors. Okay. So first of all, if alpha is positive, the value of alpha is positive, we can say that R will increase. Isn't it? R will increase. Okay. So for conductors, I can say that this R resistance increases with temperature. Resistance increases with temperature. Understand? Now the second case is for insulators. For insulators, alpha is negative. Okay, alpha is negative. So this resistance, what will happen? Resistance will, what will happen? R equal to R naught into 1 minus something, right? So again the value is reduced. So resistance decreases with increase in temperature. Resistance decreases with increase in temperature. And then for semiconductors, again alpha is negative. Semiconductors are partially conducting materials, and with the change in temperature it will start to conduct. Okay, that you will study in detail in the last chapter, so I am not explaining much here. So semiconductors, alpha is negative. Then another kind of devices are there called thermistors. Thermistors means they are highly sensitive devices to temperature. Okay, so when temperatures increase, suddenly its resistance will get increased. Like nichromware, you can say is an example for the thermistor that we are using in the lab. It has high resistance as well as high resistivity. Okay. Now the fifth one is superconductors. Superconductors, actually no material is considered as a superconductor, but at very low temperature mercury will act like a superconductor. Okay, so that's all, just for your knowledge only. So these are the things based upon the effect of temperature on resistance with respect to this equation. So with respect to this equation, you can explain the value of resistance for conductors, insulators, semiconductors, etc. Okay. Now we will discuss some important terms in this chapter. That is, first one is conductance. Okay, we have studied in chemistry, I know, but still in physics also, just we have to mention, that's very important. Conductance means what? Ability to conduct, just the reciprocal of resistance. Resistance means the property by which it is opposing the flow of current. Conductance means allowing to conduct, allowing the passage, isn't it? So conductance is represented by the letter G. Okay, G, which is 1 by R. So conductance is represented as G, which is 1 by R. Now the unit of conductance, you know, what is the unit of resistance? Unit of resistance is ohm and unit of conductance is mho. Okay, MHO. Or you can say ohm raised to -1. So these are the, one more unit is there, Siemens. So these are the units of conductance. Okay. Now the second term is conductivity. Conductivity is actually the reciprocal of resistivity. Understand? Conductivity is the reciprocal of resistivity, represented as sigma. Sigma equal to 1 by rho. Don't get confused. This is sigma conductivity and rho is resistivity. So conductivity is the reciprocal of what? Reciprocal of resistivity. And you know, for the unit of resistivity is ohm meter. So the unit of conductivity is ohm raised to -1 and meter raised to -1. Ohm raised to -1, you can write it as mho. So mho per meter. This is also right. Understand? So this is the unit of what? Conductivity, represented by sigma. Clear? Now the third one is very important. That is current density. Current density. Current density is actually the current flowing per unit area. The current flowing per unit area. It is actually a vector quantity and it is represented as the letter J. Okay. So J is equal to I by A. I by A. So current density means it is the current flowing per unit area. This current density is a what? It is a vector quantity. And what about the unit of current density? It is ampere per meter square. Clear? So the unit of current density is ampere per meter square. Clear? So first is conductance, reciprocal of resistance, denoted by the letter G. Then mho, ohm raised to -1, Siemens. These are the units of conductance. Then conductivity means reciprocal of resistivity, that is sigma equal to 1 by rho. Then unit is ohm raised to -1, meter raised to -1. Then current density means it is the current flowing per unit area, denoted by the letter J, and the unit is ampere per meter square. Understand? Now we will move to the one of the important questions and frequently asked questions again, the vector form of Ohm's law. Okay, moving to the vector form, to derive the vector form of Ohm's law. Okay, starting with vector form of Ohm's law. That is, we have the equation, that is the relation connecting I and Vd. Starting we said that is I is equal to what? N E A Vd. Okay, now writing the expression for Vd. Vd, you have the expression as E by m into tau. Isn't it? E by m into tau. Okay, or V by m L into tau. All are same. Now substituting this equation here, you will get I is equal to, okay, N E A EV tau by ml. Clear? That is E square A V tau by m L. Understand? Now look here. This term, what is this? N E square by m. What is that? N E square by, N E square tau by m. What is that? N E square tau by m. Look, rho equal to m by n e square tau. Rho equal to m by n e square tau. So just the reciprocal of rho. So I can write I is equal to 1 by rho, isn't it? 1 by rho into the rest of the terms are A and V by L. Isn't it? A and V by L. Clear? So I is equal to 1 by rho A V by L, or 1 by rho into A E. Both are same because V by L is what? E. Clear? So I is equal to 1 by rho A V by L, or 1 by rho A into E. Understand? Now what is this 1 by rho? 1 by rho, 1 by resistivity. Reciprocal of resistivity is what? Conductivity, right? Sigma. So I can write this I is equal to sigma AE. Isn't it? Sigma AE. Now just I am taking this A here, I by A, which is equal to sigma E. What is I by A? Again, the terms that we studied, that is I by A is current flowing per unit area, which will give you current density. J, which is a vector quantity. So again write J. J is equal to sigma E. So J vector is equal to sigma E. Understand? So now you can check, or you can come back to your original form of Ohm's law from this equation. This is actually the vector form of Ohm's law. J is equal to sigma E is the vector form of Ohm's law. You just have a look here. Instead of J, if I am putting the expression I by A. Clear? Now sigma means what? Sigma is 1 by rho. Clear? Then E means what? E is V by L. Understand? Now I am taking V by I here. So V by I is equal to, this term will go here, that is rho L by A, isn't it? That is V by I what? R. Resistance R is equal to rho into L by A. This is our original form of Ohm's law. Now making it into a vector, I will get the expression J vector is equal to sigma into E, where J is the current density, sigma is the what? It is the conductivity, and E is the electric field. Understand? Very important. So vector form of Ohm's law can be derived from our former equations like I equal to NEAVD, then substituting the value for VD, just as simplification and rearranging. Here you will get a term like NE square tau by M. You will put that sigma there because rho equal to M by NE square tau. So NE square tau by M will give you the reciprocal of rho, which is sigma. And substituting the value and just again rearranging, you will get J is equal to sigma E, which is the vector form of Ohm's law. Okay. Now the materials can be classified into three, mainly classified into three: conductors, then insulators and semiconductors. You have studied this, it's basically, so conductors, insulators and semiconductors. Okay, so what are conductors? As you know, they are the materials which allow the passage of electric current, isn't it? Which means it has high conductivity. It has high conductivity and low resistivity, low resistance, isn't it? So in the normal condition I am saying, so conductors are having high conductivity, then low resistivity and low resistance. Understand? That is why it is allowing the passage of current. Now insulators, examples you know, no? All the metals are example for conductors. Now for insulators, you can express in terms of conductivity. If I am saying it has very low conductivity, okay. Then resistivity, high resistivity and high resistance. So these are the properties of insulators. As you know, so many examples are there: wood, plastic, rubber, etc. These are all examples for what? Insulators. Now for semiconductors, actually the conductivity range as well as the resistivity range lies between conductors and insulators. So semiconductors allow the partial conduction. Partial conduction is there. You study in detail in the last chapter. Okay, so partially conduct, and when the temperature changes it will conduct more. So details will study there. Anyway, its resistivity lies between the range of conductors and insulators. Then conductivity lies between the range of what? Conductors and insulators. These are the classification of materials based on conductivity and resistivity. Okay, just basics only. So next is electromotive force or EMF. We have studied in chemistry. So electromotive force means what? It is actually, you know, to maintain a constant current along a conductor, we need to supply a potential difference, isn't it? The source of potential difference should be made by some device. We have studied such device are cell, battery, etc. So this cell or battery is maintaining a constant current along the conductor by supplying the necessary potential difference. Understand? So electromotive force or EMF is actually the potential between the terminals of a cell. The potential between the terminals of a cell, the condition is when the cell is not in use or when it is in open circuit. Understand? That is, if a cell is connected in an electrical circuit, suppose there is a resistance here, okay, and a key is there. Now look here. Now this is an open circuit, right? I have a cell here, then open circuit. Okay, because the key is not given there. It is in open form. Understand? In such a case, this cell possesses a potential difference. That is, you have seen Daniell cell, Leclanché cell, etc. While we are doing practicals for potentiometer, we will discuss more about that. That is, while preparing a cell itself, it has an EMF. It has a value. EMF means what? Electromotive force. That is a force required to make the electrons in motion, make a movement inside. That is, electromotive force can also be explained as the work done to move a particular charge. The same as that of potential difference. That is, electromotive force is the potential difference between the terminals of a cell, but the cell should be in open circuit. No current is drawn from it. In such a case, I is equal to what? 0. Understand? So W by Q is the equation for electromotive force, also work done to move a charge along the circuit when the circuit is open. That is the condition. Understand? Now this will turn to TPD. What is TPD? TPD means terminal potential difference. Terminal potential difference. When will this particular electromotive force turn to terminal potential difference? The same circuit, when the circuit is in a closed circuit form. That means I have to switch on so that the current flow happens. Understand? So in such a case, even though this cell has an EMF, and while it passes through this resistance, there will be a potential difference across this particular resistance. And whatever lost here, whatever voltage is lost here, we call it as lost volt. Okay, lost volt. That means the EMF, when we compare EMF with the terminal potential difference denoted by V, I can say that this EMF is always greater than V. EMF is always greater than V. That is why whenever this particular switch is on, the current starts to flow, and when it reaches this particular resistance, there will be a voltage drop across this resistance, and that is the lowest volt. Now cell. Cell, it is a device which converts chemical energy to electrical energy. This cell itself offers a resistance to the circuit. Okay, that means when in a circuit, this is circuit, and this cell offers a resistance to this circuit, which is denoted by small r. Understand? So small r is called the internal resistance. Internal resistance of a cell. Okay. So inside the cell, some chemical reactions are happening, and as a result, electrical energy is produced. But the cell offers a resistance by itself to the overall circuit. And such a resistance is termed as internal resistance. Actually, this internal resistance depends upon certain factors. They are, first one is the nature of the electrodes. You know the essential requirements for a cell, which are there. Electrolyte solution will be there, then a cathode and a cathode and an anode will be there. So these are the electrodes, isn't it? So the nature of the electrodes is a factor which is depending on what? The internal resistance of a cell. Second one is nature of the electrolyte used. Nature of the electrolyte used. Then third one is the gap between the electrodes. Third one is the gap between the electrodes, and fourth one is area of cross section of the electrodes. Understand? These are the factors on which internal resistance depends. Number one, nature of the electrode. Number two, nature of electrolyte. Then the gap between the electrodes. Then area of the electrodes. So these are the factors on which resistance, internal resistance depends. So whenever we are taking a circuit, we have to, if we are taking the total resistance, means I have to add this internal resistance along with the external one. So if I am taking the total amount of resistance, I will get like this. That is capital R plus small r, where capital R is the external resistance and small r is the resistance offered by the cell, which we call it as internal resistance. Understand? So internal resistance means the resistance offered by a cell. What are the factors on which it depends? Number one, nature of the electrode, nature of the electrolyte, then area of the electrodes and gap between the electrodes. Okay. When we are taking the total resistance, we have to take the sum of external as well as internal resistance. Okay. Now we will move to a derivation in which we are deriving an expression for the internal resistance of a cell. Okay. Shall we move to that? The maximum amount of current drawn in a circuit. If I am considering a circuit like this, and I have an external resistance, a cell here, a switch here. Okay. So this has a resistance, internal resistance is there. It has a external resistance here. Then EMF is given as E, isn't it? Then switch is there. Okay. Now if you are considering a particular circuit, and the maximum current drawn here, the maximum current drawn can be written as what? E divided by the total resistance, isn't it? R plus R. E divided by R plus R. Why I wrote E? Because E is the highest value, isn't it? Then it is getting reduced when the circuit is closed. E turns to V. Understand? By a particular amount that we will discuss now. Okay. So E by R plus R. So R is the external resistance and small r is the internal resistance. So cross multiplying, I will get E is equal to IR plus IR. E is equal to IR plus IR. Understand? So what is this IR? IR is actually the terminal potential difference. So I can write E is equal to V plus I into R. Clear? V plus I into R. This particular I into R is called the lost volt. Okay? E is equal to V plus I into R, and this IR is called the lost volt. So I can write lost volt IR, or lost volt is equal to what? E minus V. Isn't it? E minus V. What is E? E is the EMF and V is the terminal potential difference. So the difference between EMF and terminal potential difference will give you the lost volt. And so we have found that terminal potential difference is equal to E minus IR. Isn't it? Anyway you can say, or E minus V is equal to IR. That is the difference in EMF and terminal potential difference will give you the lost volt. Okay. Also I can rearrange the expression as E is equal to what? I into, V equal to I into R. Isn't V equal to I into R. So instead of I can write the expression E by R plus R into R. E by R plus R into R. So this equation you can use for numericals. Understand? So V equal to I into R, instead of I, E by R plus R into R. E by R plus R is the maximum amount of current drawn. Clear? Now again, if you want to find the lost volt the expression is I into small r. Isn't it? So here also you can substitute the value for I. I is E by R plus R into R. E by R plus R into R. Understand? Now in this equation, if I put I equal to 0, this will be V equal to E. Isn't it? V equal to E, because this term will turn to be 0. So V equal to E. How? When I equal to 0. That is when there is no current in the circuit. That is when the circuit is open. If it is open circuit means no current is flowing through the circuit. In such a case, the potential difference and the EMF will be equal. Understand? The EMF of a cell means what? The potential difference between the terminals of the cell when it is in open circuit. Now it turned to be terminal potential difference when when it becomes a closed circuit, isn't it? That is when there is no current in the circuit. When it is an open circuit, we can say that the value of E and value of V are the same. V is equal to E. So such questions can also be asked here. Understand? So I think it is clear for you. Electromotive force, terminal potential difference, internal resistance, factors affecting internal resistance, and how to derive an expression for the terminal potential difference or EMF in terms of the internal resistance, current, etc. Okay, relation connecting these all things. Understand? So it is very important again. And the topics that we have studied, so many derivations we have gone through today. So study in detail, and if you have any doubt, contact me, and have a nice day. Thank you.